Hi everyone, my name is Andrea and today I'm going to be telling you a few things I learned that makes the US different from some other countries after living abroad. I'm sure you've all heard the first one, but just the size of everything, from the houses to the cars to the restaurants, portion sizes, drinks, even distances, everything is just so much bigger. And that leads into the first one, grocery stores. Grocery stores are much different abroad. First of all, they are much, much smaller, and you have a much smaller selection. So if you want a staple like ketchup, let's say, there might only be 3 different kinds, and you can either pick the small bottle or the large bottle, and that's all you're going to get. And they don't have a lot of sauces, dips, dressings, anything like that. Again, you can find your very basics, but anything specialty is going to be difficult to find. The refrigerated section and the frozen section are also so much smaller. It's a little bit funny. You can find a little bit of pre-made food, but the selection is very limited. The 2 things that they don't put in this section that I find is very strange are eggs and milk. They are left out just on the normal shelves. Speaking of stores, if you want to do any kind of home repairs, in the US, you could go to a Home Depot, Ace Hardware, some other store like this, and they have literally everything. Rows and rows, all different brands, all different shapes, all different sizes. Here, the selection is much smaller, so you're lucky if you can find the tool you need, let alone the size that would be perfect. You just kind of make do with what you have. It makes every task so much longer and so much harder than I feel like it needs to be. This brings me to appliances. It seems like in the US, people have so many little kitchen gadgets, just things that help around the house, where here it is much less common. Again, probably because of the expense, which I'm not gonna lie, when I go back to visit, I love. The main thing that I miss, again, some people do have it, is a dryer. So I have a washing machine, so you hang your clothes outside. It's a little bit strange to get used to, but in the end, it's just a few more minutes and it's not such a big deal. The car culture in the US is, I think a lot of this does have to do with the distance. In many cities, it would be pretty hard to get around without some sort of car, where in other countries, the public transportation just seems to be a lot better. When families do have cars, many times there will be 1 car per family instead of in the US where it's very typical to have your 2. Since I moved here for the last 4 years, I have not had a car. And to be honest, it doesn't really bother me because everything is in walking distance or I can take public transportation. Obviously, it's a huge expense taken out of your budget if you don't have to pay for a car, insurance, and all of the repairs. So it's also very nice in that way. And it leads to having more of a walking culture. So I notice when I go back to the US, even if we're going someplace pretty close, most people would prefer to drive and they don't really think about walking as an option, where here it is part of day-to-day life. And another benefit I found is that you don't really have to do a lot of extra exercise outside of it, because in your normal life, you are moving and exercising and walking quite a bit. This leads into the view of distance. For instance, they might say they went on a long road trip, and they might have gone 3 hours, which I think to most Americans, this would not be considered a very long trip, considering a road trip. And again, just because everything is so much further in the US, I think we get used to driving longer distances and we just drive more in general, so it doesn't seem as far to us. Another huge difference in the restaurants. So when you go out to eat, here the experience is completely different. So first, most servers are not getting paid that much with the tips. So for them, it doesn't really matter how long you sit. But with that comes a lack of customer service. So I tend to see once you order and you have your food delivered, you're a little bit on your own. You might need to flag somebody down if you need something else. And definitely when it comes to the bill, they will wait for you to ask for it. They won't drop it off at your table. Also at restaurants, you will usually, if you order a cola or a soda, you will usually get a bottle or a can. So obviously no free refills. Many times the drinks do not come with ice, and a lot of times there is no like free tap water that's provided, again depending on the country. Another major thing, but I do see this changing in the US, is when you go to pay. They will not take your card and take it to the back with them. They will always bring the credit card machine to your table and have you pay for it there. Fast food, I know a lot of people in the US are getting away from it and don't eat as much as they used to. But here it's not really such a big thing. People will get it very, very rarely. And the funny thing is, kind of expensive compared to like local restaurants, which I think obviously have much better, healthier, and just way more delicious food. And with that, there are not a lot of drive-throughs. Some fast food restaurants do have them, but a majority of the even fast food restaurants don't. Plus, you won't see drive-throughs at things like coffee shops or banks or like drugstores, anything like that. The drive-through culture is really an American thing. I mentioned ice before, so this is obviously a big thing for me because I love ice. When they see you using ice a lot, they will tell you how bad it is for you. This also goes for the air conditioner. So where I live, it gets pretty hot in the summer, close to 100 degrees and very humid. So it goes without saying I need to use the air conditioner. But anytime you have a small cold, it is definitely to them because I have used the air conditioner. So they think ice and the air conditioners cause a majority of the sicknesses that people get in the summertime. And for today, the final one is our pet culture. Obviously, people in other countries have pets, but it is different the way that they treat their pets and the way that they act with their pets versus where we do think of our pets many times as our children. It is more of a animal, I feel like, abroad than it is their child. So again, these are just some funny things that I have learned and noticed from living abroad. If you also have traveled abroad or live abroad and there are some things that you've noticed, leave it in the comments. And if you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe. It really helps me with my channel. Thank you so much. See you next time.